social media companies are purposefully pissing you off. If you're anxious, you stay on longer. The only thing they want is your attention.
When I'm looking at my kids, if they're using some sort of technology that's supervised, that's educating them, I view it as a net positive. Do you disagree with that? Do you think that's...
I do. I think you have to be so careful. When did autism spike? As a child psychiatrist, I rarely saw it. Tylenol all of a sudden became the star pain reliever. Then we also saw an explosion of autism.
We sat down with Dr. Daniel Amen, a world-renowned psychiatrist, brain expert, and 12-time New York Times bestselling author. Amen has scanned over 200,000 people's brains, including those of NFL players and celebrities. I know there's a lot of hot topics in the media right now, especially when it comes to Tylenol, how that affects, children, especially when a mother is taking that while pregnant. So I kind of wanted to start off with that topic, if that's all right.
Well, let's just go for it right away.
Okay.
So those of us that think of ourselves as integrative or functional medicine doctors, and I think of myself as an integrative psychiatrist, have known for a long time that Tylenol is potentially a problem. And why? What does it do? It disrupts liver function. And so you can't properly detoxify the poisons that are in your body. There has been an association. So when did autism really spike?
Yeah.
And the American Psychiatric Association will lead you to believe when they change the diagnostic criteria. That's absolutely wrong. I mean, yes, maybe more people got diagnosed, but as a child psychiatrist, I rarely saw it in the 1980s when I was doing my training. I rarely saw it in the early 90s. About the mid-90s, it exploded. So what happened?
Yeah.
And in the 80s, when a mom had a fever, she'd use aspirin. But there were a couple of cases of something called Reye's syndrome, where babies had allergic reactions to aspirin.
Okay.
And the pediatrician said, oh, don't give them aspirin anymore. Let's start using Tylenol. So Tylenol, which was not big, all of a sudden became the star pain reliever and star relieving fever. And then we also saw an explosion of autism. Now, I don't think it's the only thing,
Okay.
but it's a thing. And I believe autism comes from a gene, genetically vulnerable people, environmental toxin. And I think Tylenol's one of them. I also think BPA's, bisphenol A, that's often in plastics, that Coca-Cola, they have BPA's in their cans, and they say it on their website proudly, which sort of it's bad marketing in my mind. Aspartame, we'll talk about aspartame a little bit, that's in diet soda. And there's a brand new study on phthalates. So phthalates, one of the chemicals in personal products like makeup.
Yeah.
Or deodorant or your sunscreen. They put it as a preservative. And moms who they looked at cord blood, the blood from the umbilical cord, so mom to baby. Those who had high levels of phthalate in their cord blood had a 500% increased risk of having an autistic child.
Okay.
So think about this with me, because it's not a genetic issue, because genetic issues don't all of a sudden go from 1 in 10,000 to 1 in 31. That it's an environmental vulnerability put in, something happened, and it was an environmental toxin. Ultimately, if you want the healthiest baby, you have to get healthy yourself.
You mentioned how Tylenol, and I think you say this in your new book, that Tylenol is so helpful for someone going through grief, and how
from a breakup,
I guess for healing a broken heart. That's I forget the exact quote that you said, but yeah, you were talking about Tylenol when it comes to a broken heart, as well as ibuprofen. But for some reason, with ibuprofen, it works for women but not men. Talk to me more about that.
So in Change Your Brain, Change Your Pain, I thought the idea behind the book is that both physical and emotional pain work on the same circuits in the brain. And so when they figured out that Tylenol actually helped with the emotional pain of a breakup, it's like, well, why is that? Because it calms an area of the brain called the medial, toward the middle, pain suffering circuit. And I thought that was just so interesting. And why ibuprofen would work for women but not for men, I'm not quite sure. But I found that, this gender-based difference is just fascinating. But with things like headaches, you always want to ask yourself, why do I have it? Right? Well, you always want to be curious, not furious. So what did I eat? What did I drink? What's the level of stress that I'm under? And how can I manage these things in a better way? And we often talk about how pain is repressed rage. So if you're really angry, but you're such a nice person, you could never say it. It often comes out in back pain or head pain. And Tana, my wife, often calls me Pollyanna because I'm a very positive person. But I realized in writing Change Your Brain, Change Your Pain that I have to be friend Hannibal Lecter, because you have to be able to find a way to get the rage out. Now, appropriately, right? We're not going to become a serial killer.
Yeah.
But too often,
Rage, yeah.
John Sarno, who wrote wonderful books on pain, talked about the goodists, the people that have to be good in order to be okay with themselves, that they suffer a lot more with pain. And he actually said it was repressed rage.
I also find it very interesting, the connection that you drew between pain that you're experiencing and then also, and grief specifically, and muscle pain, knots in your back. We're currently grieving, very fresh grief. We lost a baby at 17 weeks, just very recently.
I'm so sorry.
Still shaky about it, but seeing that you drew that connection, I just turned to Matt immediately. I was like, that's crazy, because I have started developing knots, tweaking my neck, knots in my back, and I went and got Matt. You scheduled me a tension point. What is it called? A tension point massage.
Abby tweaked her neck, and so I scheduled her massage, and it really helped because she had all these
the
knots.
masseuse was like, you have so many knots in your back. And then when I saw you drew that connection between grief and muscles, knots, all this stuff, I was like, wow, that's crazy. That turned a light on for me.
Well, and hypnosis can be very helpful, or EMDR. EMDR is a specific psychological treatment for trauma. What happened to you was clearly traumatic, right? It's not a little T. It's a big T.
Yeah.
And there's another technique I like a lot called havening. Do you know what that is?
No, I'm not familiar.
So it's bilateral hemisphere stimulation. So I talk about all of these in the new book. Okay. But whenever you feel sad, do bilateral hemisphere stimulation. So it's either this or this. I like this the best.
Okay.
And what I would have you do is go in to the sadness while you're doing this, and go into it for 30 seconds. I mean, really feel it. But then keep doing it and distract yourself. Go to Disneyland in your head, or the mountains, or the desert, or the beach, or wherever you love. And then keep doing that for a couple of more minutes. And then go, how do you feel? So initially, if you do it with a havening therapist, they'll go, okay, on a scale of 0 to 10, when you think about it, how upsetting is it? And you're like, it's a 10, right? And then you haven, and you do that for 3 minutes, and then rate it. And often my patients will go, it's a 4. And I'm like, well, let's do it again. Think about it for 30 seconds, distract yourself, go to the beach, and then it's a 2. And then if you do it 3 or 4 times, it's like you're still sad, but you're not triggered. And Ron Rudin, who discovered this, found it was really good for panic disorder. It was really good for phobias. And
That's music to my ears. I love a good Olipop at the end of the day. Honestly, Olipop is such a staple in our household.
We started drinking Olipop a couple years ago because it's soda without all the added sugar that most soda brands have.
We literally all fight over our favorite flavors. There's so many good ones, though. Even our kids love it.
They taste so good, and you're only looking at about like 4 or 5 grams of sugar depending on the Olipop that you drink.
Almost every American has some sort of relationship with soda from their childhood. Some people grew up drinking it all the time and then quit, and some people are still addicted to it and trying to quit. But Olipop offers a delicious alternative to traditional soda using a functional ingredient blend to support digestive health. 90% of Americans consume more than the USDA's daily recommended added sugar intake, and sweetened beverages are the leading source of added sugars in the American diet. Olipop is much, much lower in sugar than conventional sodas, with only 2 to 5 grams of sugar from natural sugar.
And we have some exciting news for you guys, because you can get $2 off a 4-pack of Olipop at drinkolipop.com/unplanned. This works on any flavor of 4-pack, including SpongeBob, at any retailer. Olipop is sold online and available in almost 50,000 retailers nationwide, including Costco, Walmart, Target, Publix, Whole Foods, Kroger, and H-E-B.
my dad died 5 years ago, and it was like the worst day of my life. And a couple of days later, I'm over at his house, and somebody put a picture of my dead dad in the mortuary in a random stack of papers. And I got it, and it was like somebody slugged me. I was so upset, and I was angry, and what idiot would do this? And I couldn't stop thinking about that. And I was at my house later that day obsessing about this, and the little supervisor in my head goes, "You treat people who have this problem. What would you do?" And I haven't. I sat in the chair and I thought about how angry I was, and I thought about the picture, and I did that for like 30 seconds, and then I took my brain to the beach and I kept it. And it went from 10 to like 4. And then I did it again. I went from 10 to 2. And then I fell in love with the picture, because it was the last picture of my dad on earth.
That's really
It's so helpful. And little kids can do this. I found it incredibly helpful for when children are upset, to stroke them, right? Like on their arms. Have them think about what you're upset about. And now go think about the playground, or think about being in the pool, whatever they love. And it just settles them.
How do you think things would have played out differently if, say, you would have turned to drinking in that time, or went and binged a dozen donuts from Krispy Kreme, or, I don't know, gotten high? Like, are you then prolonging the pain into other areas, and then it's coming up and you don't even understand why it's coming up? Like, how does that affect?
Right. You just could, you feel better fast, but it doesn't last.
Yeah.
And I always want people to feel better fast, right? That's a fast technique, but I want it to last. And I want you to work through it rather than pick up an addiction that creates more problems for you, whether it's the donuts, alcohol, marijuana, whatever.
Why is it that doctors today are so quick to prescribe SSRIs or some sort of medication for things like that? I actually, just to be vulnerable here for a second, I'm actually currently on antidepressants, and they've been super helpful. But it did shock me how easy it was to get prescribed them. It was like a 10-minute phone call, just with the doctor through an app. Like it was a pretty simple process, and I had been depressed for a very long time, so I think it was probably a good thing, and I'm doing a lot better. And it definitely, I think it's helped me through this horrible thing that we're currently going through with the loss of our baby girl. But it was shocking to me, though, how easy it was, because I held off on, getting them for a very long time, because I was trying to fix it in all these different ways, but I just kind of got stuck in that like doom loop that you talk about in your book. Why is that it's so easy to prescribe them and just hand out antidepressants?
25% of the American population is on psychiatric medication.
Wow.
It is a huge win for the pharmaceutical industry. it is a huge loss for our society. Some people, they're incredibly helpful, but psychiatrists are the only medical doctors who never look at the organ they treat. So you got prescribed 10 minutes working through an app and nobody looked at your brain. Nobody looked ahead of time. Nobody looked afterwards. You have no idea what it's really doing to your brain. Now, maybe you had a brain pattern where that medicine, what are you taking?
I'm on Zoloft, so I take 50 milligrams every night before bed.
Okay. So maybe your brain was busy, and the front part of your brain, when it works too hard, you can worry. You're a little bit rigid. If things don't go your way, you get upset and you can be sad, and those sad thoughts can cycle. Something like Zoloft, SSRI, calms that down. But if you take too much or you take it for too long, then you don't care that much. You become a little bit less motivated. You become a little bit more impulsive. And there's this balance between neurotransmitters in your brain. So if you think of serotonin, Zoloft is a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. So what it's doing, when your brain releases serotonin, it's preventing the breakdown of it, so it leaves more of it around, right? And so it calms things down. But as you raise serotonin, it's on a teeter-totter or counterbalances with dopamine. And so as serotonin goes up, relatively, dopamine goes down. And so say they were really out of whack to start, so maybe it balances. But maybe your dopamine was a little bit low, because I think we talked before, it's like, well, maybe you have ADD, right? Unplanned is, before I'm like, I wonder if they have ADD, which means you already started with low dopamine. And so you might become a little bit more ADD with it. And so how do you know? That's been my argument for 30 years. Unless you look ahead of time, someone just monkeyed around with your brain with no biological data, and that's what's happening. And it's like, you asked why. It's because it's the only tool psychiatrists have now. When I trained in the early 1980s at Walter Reed. That wasn't the only tool we had. I was the therapist. I was the medical doctor. I was the psychiatrist. So I had medicine, I had therapy, I had group counseling. I had lots of tools in my toolbox. But in the early 90s, when managed care, they go, oh, psychiatrist, you're too expensive. You just do the drugs, and we'll hire, lower paid psychologists, marriage and family counselors. They do the therapy. And in my mind, I went, bullshit. I'm not going to do that. I'm treating the whole person. I'm not going to be anybody's prescriber. I'm going to be their doctor. So I've hated that model, but it took over psychiatry in the early 90s, and it's beautiful for the pharmaceutical industry.
Speak more about all these other methods there are to treating
depression. So if
depression.
you came to see me, and I totally would give you an option of medication, because my job isn't to tell you what to do. My job is to give you options, right? It's called informed consent. And head-to-head against Zoloft, walking like you're late, 45 minutes, 4 times a week, equally effective. But what do you have at the end of 12 weeks of exercise? Well, you're cuter, and your brain works a little bit better. What do you have at the end of 12 weeks of Zoloft? You're less depressed, but it's harder to have an orgasm. I don't know if that's true for you.
No, so it's funny that you bring that up, because I was listening to you talk about this very thing on a podcast, and not to be TMI, but I have a very high libido. And so just this past week, I've been on Zoloft now for 4 months, and I was like, Abby, it's actually, I'm not even gonna lie, a little bit nice that I'm not so like, man, I just need some, I don't know. But I was like, Abby, this is weird. I've
he
never
can get more done in his day now.
Yeah, I'm not so distracted by thinking about sex all the time. So maybe that's been helpful for me, but
I think for some people, because sometimes hypersexuality can go along with ADD, and calming that down a little bit can be so helpful, right? To give you a little bit better impulse control and not spinning on the same thought over and over again.
Yeah. It is funny though.
But we were talking about natural treatments.
Yes.
So exercise, omega-3 fatty acids, especially higher in EPA than DHA. Learning how to not believe every stupid thing you think is so important. It's like when you're sad or you're spinning, it's like, why are there no classes in school on how to manage your mind? Right? I'm friends with Paul Simon, and I love him. He has this song called Kodachrome, which starts off with, when I think back on all the crap I learned in high school, it's a wonder I can think at all. I mean, it's like, why don't we teach kids how to manage their checkbooks and manage their minds, right? We have a high school course called Brain Thrive by 25. Decreases drug, alcohol, and tobacco use, decreases depression, improves self-esteem. Why? We teach them not to believe every stupid thing they think. And then we teach them to love and care for their brain by asking themselves this question every day. Is what I'm doing good for my brain or bad for it? And so alcohol, bad. Marijuana, bad. Hitting a soccer ball with your head, very bad, right? So just learning to do the right thing, not because you should. You do the right thing because you love yourself, right? And the thing, you want to love your brain. So 3 natural things. Saffron, 28 randomized controlled trials against Zoloft, Celexa, Wellbutrin, imipramine, Prozac, equally effective.
Wow.
Saffron is pro-sexual, so maybe that would not help you. It
Have a lot more kids.
enhances sexual function. It helps with mood, but it also helps with memory and focus. There's 5 studies with ADD and saffron. And so I'm thinking, for you, I'm doing those 4 things first. And 5th is learning not to believe every stupid thing you think. Right? Whenever you're sad, whenever you're mad, whenever you're nervous or out of control, just write down what you're thinking and then go, is it true? That is a basic skill that 2nd graders should learn.
As a parent, I would say my most dreaded meal of the day is lunchtime.
Really?
Yes.
Really, especially with the kids.
Yeah, it's like we just cleaned up from breakfast. I'm thinking about making a dinner for the whole family. Like, you're telling me you need a 3rd meal in the middle of the day, and I feel like I've never have a good plan for it. And that is why I have stopped stressing over last-minute meals and started using Little Spoon. Their recipes are made with pediatricians, packed with hidden veggies, and somehow my kids will still ask for seconds, which I feel like we're always bargaining with our kids at mealtime, especially lunchtime. But Little Spoon has been excellent. They love their meals with Little Spoon.
They do. The Little Spoon meals even come with, a side, an entree, a dessert. And so what I've been doing when I give them the Little Spoon meals is putting the dessert away until they eat the main portion, and then I give them their dessert.
Oh, and they sure do love it. Honestly, there's something nostalgic about Little Spoon too. Like, it reminds me of my childhood, but a much more wholesome and healthier version than what we were eating as kids.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
And that's because everything's made with real ingredients, no artificial flavors, sweeteners, or dyes. It's the rare combo of convenient and healthy. And isn't that what we're always looking for?
Oh yes, Abby. And here's the exciting part. Little Spoon is now in Target.
Woo!
Plus, Target has an exclusive frozen line. Think their cult favorite chicken nuggets, meatballs, and sliders. Find them in the snack and freezer aisles.
Little Spoon is the mealtime hack parents can't stop talking about. Try their no prep, nutrient-packed meals and snacks for babies, toddlers, and big kids. Get 50% off your first online order at littlespoon.com/unplanned with code unplanned at checkout. That's LITTLESPOON.com/unplanned. And don't forget to use our show's code for 50% off your first order.
This generation, your generation's thought, I've seen some of the world's most famous people. They all have the same thought. I'm not enough. One guy sold 400 million albums. I'm not enough. I'm like, dude, if you're not enough, nobody is enough.
Who are you talking about when you say that?
Well, I don't want to say that one.
Oh, okay.
But so many people, they go, oh, I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not tall enough. I'm not rich enough. I'm not enough. And I'm like, is that true? Yes. Is it absolutely true? No. How does it make you feel? Small. How would you feel if you didn't have the thought? Fine. Take the original thought, turn it to its opposite. I am enough. And then just focus. Do you have any evidence? You're enough.
You've
Married
gained-
to a beautiful woman,
Yeah.
have a job you find fascinating. It's where you bring your attention. So if you naturally tend to be depressed, we naturally tend to be negative. And negativity is bad for your brain. And so I try to teach all of my patients positivity bias. What's positive about this situation? And there's nothing positive about having a miscarriage, except you guys are still together and you still
Yeah,
love each other and you
we
can
do.
try again. And my mom had a miscarriage and she cried, I'll never have a baby. Yeah. She has 7 children and 54 grandchildren,
Wow.
great-grandchildren. It's like,
Four.
don't believe every stupid thing you think. So when you get that thought, just write it down and go, is that true?
Something I love that you have shared many times is pain shared is pain divided. And that I found so much relief in that in this time. Like, I have talked more openly, cried more openly, like shared so much in a time that, I don't know, I felt like a little pressure. Like, maybe I should just be quiet and like get myself collected before I talk about this. But I have found so much healing in like talking about my pain. And I guess we can talk about that aspect of like managing our pain, like sharing our pain and like how that has a tangible benefit to how we experience it.
It also connects you. And it gives some purpose to the pain because as you shared it, other people have shared theirs with you. Now, ultimately, you want to share how you're getting better, right? You don't want to just share the pain, but in sharing it, other people can tell you their experience. And that's the connection that is healing. And we get sick in 4 circles and we get well in 4 circles. So I always think about what's the biology of that. Your hormones went through a wicked, quick transition. So there's a physical aspect to that. There's also a psychological aspect to it, which is loss, right? And grief. And then there's a social aspect to it. There may be some tension or disappointment. And there's a spiritual aspect. It's like, well, why did that happen to me? And I think getting well is taking care of yourself physically, not believing every stupid thing you think, or using something like EMDR or havening to manage it, connecting, sharing the pain, always looking for the purpose.
It's just been on our minds constantly. You know, it's been something that like the automatic negative thoughts have definitely come up, feeling helpless, hopeless, like that's obviously been a thing as well. And so it's been something that's been really hard, I think.
So what's the
especially
thought? What's the thought?
from my perspective, I think I think being on antidepressants has definitely helped me, but it's been sad to see Abby like blame herself for all of that. And so just reminding her that there's absolutely nothing that she did wrong. Seeing her go into this like blame game of like, oh, maybe I did this, maybe I did that. And it's like, no, you didn't. There's nothing you did. It's just sucky stuff like this happens sometimes.
Well, we always try to believe we have more power than we do.
Truthful.
Yeah.
When you go, I could have done this or I could have, you just write that out. And then it's like, well, is that true? Is it absolutely true? But the flip is, I did what I knew to do, and bad things happen to good people, right? And we know miscarriages often happen when there's sometimes something wrong with the baby. And so it's nature's way of not creating more suffering. But we don't know. But when your mind goes on the attack, that's when you need to write it down and treat yourself like a good mom. would, or a good friend, or a good teacher, or a good coach. It's too often we treat ourselves in such an abusive way. And it's like, hey, would a good coach say that to me? Or would a good friend say that to me? Or would I say this to someone I cared about? And it's like, you wouldn't. So then give that part of you a name. I love it. Give your mind a name. Like I named my mind after my pet raccoon when I was, because she was a
You had a
troublemaker.
pet raccoon?
I did.
No
I
way.
Loved her.
Indoor, like inside your house?
Oh no. Slept in my bedroom.
What?
That's
and-
scary.
I didn't know that
But
was
she
a thing.
TP'd my mother's bathroom. It was a very
What?
bad day. Ate all the fish out of my sister's aquarium.
You're kidding me.
Very bad day. But that's my mind. It just creates trouble. And so if you give your mind a name, you just can separate from it. And if you can be a little bit dispassionate and watch it and go, oh, it's a storm. And the storm because of the loss and the hormones, but you don't have to attach to it. Because it's not the thoughts you have that make you suffer. It's the thoughts you attach to.
You've talked before about how when you look at the brain, you scan someone's brain who is praying or meditating, you see all sorts of activity. And I want to get into what that looks like, because I believe you referenced on a podcast a study that somebody did on Tibetan monks and Franciscan nuns. But where my question's coming from is there a similar thing going on in the brain when you look at someone who is reflecting on a loved one that's passed on, or someone that was close to them, and they're like they live in their brain with them, if that makes sense?
We all live in each other's brains. And when we lose somebody important to us, the brain still looks for them. And that's where it becomes more active. Different than in prayer and meditation.
Okay.
They tend to calm down an area of the brain called the posterior cingulate gyrus, big term. It's part of the brain that's like the chatterbox in your brain that like talks to you and sometimes punishes you, says bad things to you. Meditation and prayer calm those areas down, and they strengthen your frontal lobes. And there's always this dance between your emotional brain, or the chatterbox, and your frontal lobes. So think of your frontal lobes as the brake in your brain. Or if you think of the rider and the elephant, so your emotional brain is like the elephant, but it has a rider, and the rider like directs the energy. No, it's like, now we're going to do that. We're going to do this. And you need that. But if you were in a car accident, if you played football in high school, if you're drinking alcohol or smoking pot, what you're doing is you're weakening the rider, or you're weakening the brake, and your emotions can get out of control. So we never want to do anything to damage this brake part in your brain. This also breaks pain. And in Change Your Brain, Change Your Pain, I talk about 3 pain circuits in the brain. This being the most important one, because if this is weak, it can't shut down pain, physical or emotional.
I don't know about you, but sometimes keeping up with my supplements is kind of a headache. They're expensive, they're hard to keep up with, but Everyday Dose is an affordable solution because they cover all of your bases in just a cup of coffee. It takes 30 seconds to make, and you get coffee plus a bunch of supplements with vitamins, minerals, and amino acids.
That's so nice, because honestly, when it comes to vitamins and supplements, I'm always confused about what I'm supposed to take. This seems like such a brainless way to get your health and nutrition kick-started for the day. Everyday Dose offers coffee that does more. Their Coffee Plus features functional ingredients for smooth energy, calm focus, gut health, and skin support.
Their Coffee Plus is available in 2 varieties. Mild Roast, which is smooth and light-bodied with 45 milligrams of caffeine, and medium roast, which is rich and full-bodied with 90 milligrams of caffeine.
Exciting news! You can now find Everyday Dose in Target stores across the country. Celebrate with a buy one, get one deal. Just buy any 2 Everyday Dose products at a Target store near you, and they'll pay you back for one. Visit everydaydose.com/unplanned for more details.
We talked before last time we had you on the show a lot about alcohol and how damaging that is. I think there's been a lot of research coming out recently where people are realizing that alcohol is essentially poison and it's not good for you, and even drinking in moderation isn't good. But now there's been this big push towards marijuana. It's been interesting to see. Like, we recently moved to Arizona, and immediately I started noticing like all these signs that were like, free weed Friday, come get your free weed, like weed pizza, like all these. There's this big business now behind marijuana because it's getting legalized all over the country. And from the research that I've done on it, it seems to be a lot less harmful for your health than alcohol, but that doesn't still mean that it's healthy for you. So I'm curious, what do you say to the person that, views marijuana as medicinal, helpful for chronic pain or headaches? Like, what do you say to that person?
Yeah, I'm not a fan. I published a study on 62,454 patients. It's the world's largest imaging study.
Holy cow.
On how the brain ages.
Okay.
And little kids have really busy brains. And as we get older, it becomes sleepy. And then what we looked at is what accelerates aging. Having schizophrenia was the worst. Your brain looked 10 years older. The next worst was marijuana.
Really?
Yeah. And then I published a study on 1,000 marijuana users. Every area of the brain was lower in blood flow. And then there's a brand new study out earlier this year from another group that I have nothing to do with on 1,000 marijuana users, young ones. The areas involved with learning and memory were lower. It's not innocuous. It's a lie. Teenagers who smoke or use marijuana in their 20s have an increased risk of anxiety, depression, suicide, and psychosis. There's actually a gene that if you have this gene, you have a 700% increased risk if you use marijuana of becoming psychotic. And most people never test for the gene. So if you're using marijuana, it's a little bit of Russian roulette. On our podcast, Change Your Brain Every Day, we recently had Julius Randle. So Julius is 3-time NBA All-Star. He's a superstar, power forward for the Minnesota Timberwolves. He's smoking a lot of pot and almost got divorced over it. He saw a scan, and Julius is very smart. He saw a scan and saw the damage it was doing, and he stopped. Well, a year later, emotionally, because he learned how to not believe every stupid thing he thinks, he learned how to have better habits, got his ADD treated, and he's not using marijuana, and he's so much better as his brain is better. I'm not a fan of it, especially because it can decrease motivation. It can decrease your coordination. There's one city in Ohio where 42% of the accidents are associated with marijuana. So we are just changing addictions.
Okay.
And now the new one is psilocybin.
Okay.
It's like psilocybin for everybody. And in some cases, marijuana is helpful. In some cases, under really good supervision, psilocybin probably is going to be helpful for depression and PTSD. The problem is this. As soon as we go, oh, this is good medicine, now we have mass numbers of young people having mushroom parties.
Interesting.
And what's the incidence of mental health problems in the young? They've exploded. And they've exploded in part around the societal lies that alcohol is a health food, marijuana is innocuous, and mushrooms are a good way to deal with your depression. We are worse than ever before. Suicide in young people has gone up 746% since the year 2000. So now we can add in social media and cell phone use where we're no longer dripping dopamine. We're dumping dopamine. And when you wear out your dopamine stores by the constant phone, the constant social media, the constant comparison, alcohol, marijuana, psilocybin, you just feel bad all the time. And then you get on the app and get on an SSRI and you think you're fine. But there's new research associating SSRI use in older people with dementia. So if I was you, I wouldn't think, oh, this is my happy pill forever.
Yeah.
I would go, I'm going to figure out how to manage my mind, get really healthy.
Yeah.
And use this as a tool.
Yeah.
A little bit like GLP-1 drugs. It's like, if you think you're going to use that to manage your weight for the rest of your life, you're going to be in big trouble. Yes, you want to turn off the food noise, but you also want to learn how to manage your mind and manage your body.
It's funny you bring that up because that was actually my very next question. What should I do as somebody that is currently on antidepressants? I don't want to be on this forever. I want to get off, even though I'm sure it'll be frustrating to have a higher libido again. I'm sure I can manage that. I'm sure I can find natural ways of dealing with that. So what should somebody do that is wanting to get off of antidepressants?
So make sure you talk to your doctor and love your brain. And at some point, we'll look at it, right? And then balance it. Eat things you love that love you back. Like, I love donuts. I could have 6 and I'd be so happy. And I would be fat and inflamed and miserable.
I was surprised to hear you say you like. When's the last time you had a donut?
It's been a long time.
In the past 5 years, have you had a donut?
No.
Oh
What?
my!
Cake, ice cream, the last 5 years.
When I go to Europe, I might have a gelato, but Drew Carey, you know, the comedian Drew Carey, he said it best. Eating crappy food isn't a reward. It's a punishment. I try to
every
love
once in a while?
things that love me back. But every night I make Tana brain healthy hot chocolate. Like every night. Unsweetened vanilla almond milk, raw cacao, a little bit of chocolate stevia. There's a company I like called Sweet Leaf. And I love it. And it loves me back.
You seem to be a man of discipline. It seems like discipline plays an important role in your life. Like you're
Love
not...
plays the biggest role in my life. And I love me. And I love Tana. And I love my kids. But I realize I never want to have to live with any of them. Right? I want to be clear and independent for as long as I can. I don't want to be a burden, but I don't want to live with them. It's like, no, I want to be in control of me for as long as possible. Right? So I think of it as love, that I do the right thing, not as discipline. And what did I think Lincoln said? Discipline was choosing between what you want now versus what you want most.
Are you a big fan of Abraham Lincoln?
Love Lincoln because he failed repeatedly, was depressed, was suicidal twice in his life.
Really?
Yeah, I was just at the White House and it was really fun for me because I got to talk to RFK Jr. and right next to the Lincoln bedroom. And I've always been a huge fan of his. And in the winter of 1840, he was depressed, suicidal. He had a political setback. And he went to his doctor in Illinois, Springfield, Illinois. And how did his doctor, Anson Henry, diagnose Lincoln with melancholia, or what we would now call depression? He talked to him. He looked at him. He looked for symptom clusters, the same way your 10-minute doctor did, right? You told him the symptoms. He gave you the diagnosis, which was basically a regurgitation of your symptoms. And then he diagnosed and treated him. That's insane that we're still doing it the way we did it 185 years ago. But yeah, I love everything about Lincoln, from his overcoming a traumatic childhood. And do you know why he was depressed?
I'm guessing because of all the really crazy stuff going on back then with the
So what
the
a
war.
lot of people don't know is when Lincoln was 10, he was kicked in the head by a horse and was unconscious all night long. And he would have visions. So I think of them as temporal lobe problems, probably from the head injury. Depression is a very common cause of consequence of concussions. But if you don't look, you don't know.
Our bedroom is a sanctuary. Abby and I love getting cozy in the sheets. Why are you laughing right now? We love reading our books together. It's where the we have very
We're in the bedroom right now.
We've got cozy earth sheets, y'all. Okay, they're so soft, they're so comfortable. We've had these for over a year, and they're made with like bamboo or something, right?
Yeah, viscose from bamboo,
Viscose from
which
bamboo.
is temperature regulating, which is really nice because sleeping next to Matt Howard, if you haven't done it, is like sleeping next to a room heater.
A furnace.
A furnace. And so I am always running cold. So it's nice to have that to support different types of sleep styles and patterns. Cozy Earth also has a cuddle blanket that I am obsessed with. We've draped it over our sectional in our living room. It is so luxurious, you guys. It offers a combination of comfort and style, and we love cozying up to that at the night when we're watching our show after the kids go to bed.
And the great thing about Cozy Earth is it's a risk-free purchase. There's a 100-night sleep trial. You try them out, and if you don't love them, return them hassle-free. But trust me, you won't want to.
I'm always recommending Cozy Earth confidently because they offer a 10-year warranty. Because once you feel comfort of this level, you'll want it to last a decade.
Head to cozyearth.com and use our code UNPLANNED for up to 20% off. That's cozyearth.com, code UNPLANNED. And if you get a post-purchase survey, make sure to tell them that you heard about Cozy Earth right here on our podcast. Because home isn't just where you live, it's how you feel. Let's go home with Cozy Earth. When Abby and I worked at a pizza restaurant together in college while we were saving up to get married, money was tight. And if we had earlier access to our money, it definitely would have helped us out. And that's why I'm a huge fan of Cash App, because if you have direct deposit set up through Cash App, you can get money up to 2 days earlier than some banks.
Cash App is more than just a safe way to send and receive money. With the Cash App card, you can get tons of perks without hidden fees. Think early access to concert pre-sales like Kendrick Lamar and Sabrina Carpenter, plus discounts on everyday purchases at brands you're probably already spending money on.
It also keeps your money safe by automatically flagging suspicious transactions and letting you lock your card instantly if it's ever lost or stolen.
For a limited time, new Cash App customers can earn $10 if they use code CashApp10 in their profile at sign up and send $5 to a friend within 14 days. Terms apply. Cash App is a financial services platform, not a bank. Banking services provided by Cash App Bank's partner, prepaid debit cards issued by Sutton Bank, member FDIC, discounts provided by Cash App, a Block Inc. brand.
Visit cash.app/legal/podcast for full disclosures. I actually got on antidepressants not too long after I had my third concussion. So my first concussion, I was wrestling a guy in college. We were messing around. He shoved me into a cabinet, whacked my head, got a concussion. Second one was actually a year ago this month. I was in Abby's group fitness class, fell backwards on this like soft, plush mat, thinking I was just gonna like roll just like normal, and there was a metal kettlebell right there that smacked my head. It started gushing blood. Second concussion. Third one, went on a surf trip to Nicaragua with some friends. Took a fiberglass surfboard to the face.
So maybe your depression is really post-concussive.
Could be.
And Zoloft's not the right long-term treatment for that. Hyperbaric oxygen imaging, because how do you know unless you look? I mean, I can't say that over and over and over again. We put people in a hyperbaric chamber and put their brain in a healing environment. So I don't know if we talked about it last time, but I did the first and largest study on active and retired NFL players.
Yes.
So I've scanned and treated 400 NFL players.
Unreal.
80% of our players got better when we put them on a rehabilitation program. Really good omega-3 fatty acids, a really great multiple vitamin, a brain boost that works in 6 different ways, avoid bad things, do good things. And for many of them, we put them in a hyperbaric chamber. I don't know if you know Joe Polish. He's also in Arizona. I love marketing, and he runs something called the Genius Network. He came to see me because he had an addiction, and he got a baseball to his head when he was 10. You could see the evidence of the trauma, and went in a hyperbaric chamber, took the supplements, dramatically better.
Wow.
You are not stuck with
That's
the
good.
brain you have. You can make it better.
I would love to circle the conversation back to social media because we have little kids and there's actually a school in Arizona. We're going back and forth what we want to do with schooling with our kids. We're doing home stuff right now and for the foreseeable future, but we're like down the line, it might be good for them to do social interactions at school. I think that's very important for their development. But there's a school near us that actually makes it a school policy that none of the kids can have social media. If you attend that school, like no one can have social media. And that reminded me, I heard you say before, talking about applying neuroscience to public policy. And there's a country that banned social media for everyone.
Australia,
okay.
For our kids under 16.
Yeah, I think that's, I
There's
don't
a
see
direct
America
correlation
doing that,
to suicide and social media and cell phones.
Yeah.
So brand new study that kids who got cell phone at the age of 5, when they're 20, they have a 50% chance of having suicidal ideation. 50, 1 in 2. That the earlier kids get cell phones, the more messed up they are. Why in Silicon Valley are there nanny contracts that go, you cannot be on your phone around the child and you cannot let the child have access to devices? Why would that be? From the people who created this stuff, that they go, oh, it's not good for my kids. So if they know it's not good for your kids, it's not good for your kids.
It's so scary for me because we were just in high school when I feel like social media was first picking up, and it has since obviously changed dramatically, gotten so much more all-consuming. I'm curious, like, how you anticipate people like in our generation, like what our brains will look like when we're elderly because of this constant social media consumption.
So conscientiousness, the one predictor of longevity, is going down in your generation. Agreeableness is going down in your generation. And we don't recognize that social media companies, there's this great documentary, if you haven't seen it, you should, called The Social Dilemma. How these companies for profit are purposefully pissing you off. That if you're mad, if you're sad, if you're anxious, you stay on longer. And ultimately, the only thing they want is mind share. They want your attention for as long as possible. And so what they do is they take people who are like center right, but then they'll just feed them right content. And pretty soon that center right person is more moderately right. But that moderate right person is now far right. And the same thing's true. The center left person is now moderately left, and the moderate left person is now radically left. And it's an unintended consequence for money of dividing us into this really insane, hateful place that we have gotten to. That people celebrating the assassination of, a young right star. It's just unconscionable to me. But it happens on both sides.
Yeah.
Right? It's not a left issue or a right issue. It's a social media mind manipulation so they can sell you stuff.
Can these devices, I know we've talked about social media and how damaging that can be, but can these devices be used for good as well? Because the reason I ask, our son, I'm so proud of him. He's 3. He's doing like a little bit of school every week. He goes 2 days a week to this little, small home school that we set up with our friends. And he recently, actually, I think this was just a couple of days ago, by far best in the class when it came to drawing all of his letters. He just like traced every letter, and he's 3. So like most 3-year-olds can't, he just turned 3. So it was just very impressive that he almost perfectly traced every letter. And the reason he was able to do that was because about, 10 days ago, 14 days ago, I started using this learning application on our iPad with him called ABC Mouse. And so it's been interesting, though, because he's learned so much from this learning program, ABC Mouse, but I've noticed how addicted he is to the learning games, even though it's, okay, which one is greater, the 3 acorns or the 2 pigs? And he'll, do all these games, but there's something about the technology aspect that does get him, glued to the screen. So how do you balance that as a parent?
I would take away the screen.
Completely.
There's a really good book called The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. And the more access they have to devices, the more it's going to wear out the dopamine in their brain, the more they'll get addicted to it, and the more problems they're going to feel. And as his parents, you are going to feel, right? Because when you struggle with the kids, you feel terrible. If it was me, I would get paper and draw the letters out with him.
Yeah.
And the less screen time, the more attention he will build naturally. The more screen time, the less attention he will build.
Like looking at myself, right? I love to learn. I think learning's so much fun. And so when I go to learn something, I'll go on YouTube and listen to a 3-hour podcast about a very niche topic that I just want to nerd out about. In the same way, when I'm looking at my kids, if they're using some sort of technology that's supervised, that's educating them, I view it as a net positive. And do you disagree with that? Do you think that's...
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you have to be so careful because they're so reinforcing that the kids get addicted to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get unhappy and they go through withdrawal without it. Your brain is mostly finished developing. His brain is undergoing wild development. And much better that he's outside, he's playing, or that you're teaching him off the devices. The more you do it on the devices, the more dependent he is going to be for that exciting, stimulating way of learning.
I am so curious what other types of public policy you'd like to see put in place that has neuroscience in mind.
So California passed a law that high school, cannot start before 8:30 in the morning. Because we know kids who get less sleep have a higher incidence of anxiety, depression, and suicide. And I love that. It's simple, but it's smart. I think brain health education should be in every grade. I had to learn English in every grade, right? But I didn't learn one thing, how to love and care for my brain. And I think this is absolutely critical. I think looking at all of the ingredients and products, I think we should really take a critical look at phthalates and parabens and fragrance and aspartame.
Yeah, I'm so curious what you have to say about aspartame, because isn't that what's in Diet Coke that like all of us are like
Diet
addicted
sodas.
to?
Yep.
Yeah.
So aspartame in 5,000 products. When I was 35, I had pain in my hands and my knees, and I had trouble getting off the floor playing with my smaller children. And one of my patients, and I think the people who've taught me the most about what I do are the people I serve. It's been my patients. And I said, one woman said, I stopped aspartame and my pain went away. And I'm like, really? Because I thought it was free, right? It's no calories.
Right.
Lunchtime, there was a Jack in the Box across the street from me, and I didn't care anything about my own brain, so I'd have lunch at Jack in the Box, and I'd have a 32-ounce Diet Pepsi, like every day, and I'm in chronic pain. And I'm like, maybe I should stop that. And so I did, and the pain went away. And then I'm not that smart, so I had to test it. And so I got another one, and then the pain immediately came back, and I'm like, done with aspartame. They gave mice aspartame, Diet Coke.
I know, that's like every mom's favorite drink.
And they liked it.
I don't know if I want to hear this.
Have you heard about Utah soda culture?
And they liked it, but they got really anxious. And they gave them Valium, a benzo, and it calmed them down. But the really bad part of this study, their babies were anxious. And the babies were never exposed to aspartame. It had an epigenetic change. It turned on some switches that created anxiety in their babies.
Wow.
Their grandbabies were anxious. Aspartame, unleashed, 1981. 5,000 products. So if you just like chewing gum, most gum has aspartame in it. And I just think we should do thoughtful studies rather than studies sponsored by Coca-Cola or sponsored by the food industry, that they have very powerful lobbyists that are paying lots of money for the government not to look into these things. And I'm sort of a huge fan of RFK Jr. and go, let's get petroleum-based dyes out of our food. I mean, if you can't buy it in Europe, why can you buy it here?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if they're like blocking things, I don't think I'm not a fan of red dye.
You've said there's quite a few things that you're happy with what RFK Jr. is doing. I'm curious, though, with how you spoke about mushrooms earlier. I want to say RFK is, working to legalize psilocybin in the country for those, war veterans, people that have suffered from PTSD. And talk to me more about that. Like, are there any areas like that where you maybe disagree with RFK?
Well, I'm very concerned about the psilocybin stuff. I think it's going to be helpful to some people, and it's going to devastate other people. There's not enough caution in the discussion, because as the idea of the dangerousness of a drug goes down, its use goes up, because people don't know how to manage their minds, and so they're always looking to escape their own mind. And I'm like, why don't you just make friends with it? Why just, give your mind a name and don't believe
That's
every
too hard.
stupid thing you think.
Making friends, gosh.
Wait, we never got the name of your mind.
Hermie.
Hermie.
That was the raccoon's name.
That's so
And
cute.
she was a girl. She actually, Hussy, got pregnant.
Wow.
But
Oh my
I raised her with morals, and
Oh my goodness.
got out one night and then had 7 babies. But anyways,
Crazy.
Hermie was her name. And
Hermie's
I
crazy.
loved her. And she was great for picking up girls, because you just take her out on her leash and she's so
What kind of
cute,
girls does a raccoon attract?
Oh, so many. You take her to the beach and it was
Actually,
great.
I did want to ask you this, because going through grief and loss, it feels like the natural stage that we're in now is like, maybe we get a dog. That feels like a good. Is there
That's so
some
funny.
connection? There's got to be something to that.
Having an animal often is very settling to the brain. If you pick one that's rational and loving. Like, I have a white shepherd, and I am just so completely in love with her, right? It took a lot of work to train her, but yeah, when I work out, she lays right next to me. And
That's
Okay, we got to clear from Dr.
I think
come
that
on.
can be helpful, but
During
you
this
also want to make sure it's not a reaction, because it's a 12
Right.
or 15-year decision, and they can be stressful. So you just want to sort of
We're negotiating.
judge your bandwidth, and then if you're really smart and you get a dog, make sure you have a really good trainer, and that because the trainer's not for the dog, the trainer's for you.
Train me.
Just like training your mind, right? You have to be really thoughtful with a puppy.
I have kind of a dumb question that's been nagging me ever since the beginning when you were talking about pain and headaches. So bear with me.
No, there's no dumb
Can
question.
you think so hard that you get a headache? Because I swear sometimes I'm like, I thought way too much today. That's what's causing this. You can't.
What is thinking negatively?
No,
Or-
if you're trying to learn something or grapple with something, negotiate a hard concept in your mind, can it literally cause physical pain in your head?
Well, if the focus with stress will cause the tension
So it's the
to
stress.
get worse. Yeah. Have you ever been hypnotized?
Never.
So I have an app called BrainFit Life. It's got 6, soon to be 18 hypnosis audios.
Oh, wow.
And many of the new ones are for pain.
Wait, yes, I have.
When you were giving birth,
I did a
you
birth
did a
hypnosis.
hypnobirth,
thingy.
like, meditation.
Meditation. It actually worked.
So what I would do, especially if you're prone to headaches, is every day just spend 10 to 20 minutes listening to a hypnosis audio and training your brain how to get into a relaxed hypnotic state, because it'll lower your cortisol levels, and your muscles are telling you something, that your brain is sending too many stress signals to your body. And so just being in a hypnotic state helps to settle that down. And then on top of that, I would add diaphragmatic breathing. So diaphragmatic breathing is just breathing with your belly. And it's so simple. 4 seconds in, just take a big breath, but blow up your belly when you breathe in. If you ever watch a baby breathe or a puppy breathe, they breathe exclusively here because it's the most efficient way to breathe. But then 8 seconds out. So take twice as long to breathe out as you breathe in. And for people who have a smartwatch, it often measure heart rate variability, which is a sign of heart health. And if you can increase it, and you increase it with things like hypnosis and diaphragmatic breathing and meditation, you're just training your body. It's like, girl, you've been thinking too much.
Thinking
Or
too
girl,
much.
you're too hard on yourself. We need to be the good mother to ourselves, right? Nurture, love, quiet your busy brain.
How do you tap into a hypnosis? Like, it's easy. I think I'm thinking about my labor experience. It was crazy. I was hypnotized for how long was that? That I was listening to that. I don't even remember
maybe
the time.
45 minutes, because you forgot to let them know that you needed another epidural.
I came out of
dose.
it, and then they were like, "Okay, it's time to push," and I was like, "Whoa, I'm in so much pain," and I'm wondering if that same thing would occur if I were to do this daily,
with a migraine or
during
something.
the day, where if I'm like, okay, yeah, I was in that really relaxed state. I did that practice in the morning. Here I am in the afternoon. My to-do list is long. How do you tap back into that without do you just stop everything and enter the
Just
hypnosis
do
again?
4 diaphragmatic breaths.
Okay.
Lay on your back or sit in the chair. And they're like a 15-second breath. So that's a minute. And go somewhere in your mind that you love. I can immediately do it and go to the beach or go to the mountains or go to Jackson, Wyoming, which is so pretty. It's just, I'm going to work to train my brain to help me. And if we did a lot more of that in this society, we'd be a lot happier.
You can tap back into that.
And then don't listen to things that piss you off, whether it's the news or social media that's meant to keep your attention. Just watch. I think people listen, just watch your feed on how much of it is, oh, I really like that, versus that really makes me mad.
Can you offset your vices? So let me give you an example. I know of somebody in my life, they practically drink a beer every day, but they also run every single day. They never miss a day. And so it's like, okay, alcohol, not good for your brain, but then running, good for your brain.
So let me answer it this way. I've seen 400 NFL players, some of them active players. They have $80 million contracts. They're still going to play. It's like, if you're going to do something bad, you need to outweigh it with a whole bunch of good.
Okay.
So Tom Brady played until he was 45. He wrote a book called TB12, which is basically a brain health book. Virtually everything else he did was great. Or we're just finishing a firefighter study. After the LA fires, and it was so awful, our foundation, we have a foundation called the Change Your Brain Foundation that raises money for service and research and education. We donated 100 scans for firefighters because they all have bad brains. But does that mean they're not going to be a firefighter? because of the toxic exposure, the emotional trauma, the head trauma. No, we need firefighters, but what should happen is they should love their brain and they should always be rehabilitating it. So, if you want to keep your vices, just see, I mean, you really can't outrun a bad diet, right? But try to do way more good than bad. And the more love you have for yourself, the less bad you'll want to do.
Is there something that we haven't discussed that people need to know? Like just, final thoughts.
I know you had a sex question you wanted to ask.
I had a sex question I wanted to ask. What was it? I can't.
I don't know. We were talking about, I was like, I want to bring this up. I'm trying to figure out a way. I was like, you wrote a whole book about love and the brain. I feel like he's got a wealth of knowledge on that topic.
Oh, man.
The best fourth play is forethought.
Okay.
No forethought equals no foreplay, right?
Okay.
That's why you want to have good frontal lobes because, for guys, we can get aroused almost anytime. Girls are way different and they need thoughtfulness. And so you always want to ask yourself this one question. What do you want? Like with my wife, I always want the same thing. It's always the same thing. I want a kind, caring, loving, supportive, passionate relationship. 100% of the time I want that. But I don't always feel it. Rude thoughts just show up.
Mm-hmm.
And I block them because it's like, that's not going to get you your goal. And the other thing, notice what you like more than what you don't like. Every day, you're shaping each other's behavior by what you notice. And you can make her mad. You can make her sad by what you say or what you do. But that doesn't fit the goal because odds are you guys have the same goals. I have most of my patients have the same goal: kind, caring, loving, supportive, passionate relationship. And it just supervises what comes out of your mouth. Right now, if you drank, those bad thoughts are more likely to come out. If you didn't sleep the night before, those bad thoughts are going to come out. If you're grieving, those bad thoughts are more likely to come out. But if you just focus on noticing what you like more than what you don't, it just could change the quality of your relationship in a good way.
It all connects back.
Really does. Dr. Raymond, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Yeah.
If you guys haven't, definitely pre-order his new book, Change Your Brain, Change Your Pain. They can pre-order it, right?
They can pre-order it.
Okay.
And if they go to Change Your Brain, Change Your Pain book, we actually have 4 free gifts for them. Even a 30-day online pain course.
No
that
way.
is great. And the Emotional Freedom Journal, which is how do you get the rage out, and an omega-3 fatty acid supplement.
Very cool. Dr. Raymond, thank you so much.
Thank
So great to see you guys
Yes.
again.
Likewise.